Hey folks, today's episode we're going to learn how to play Whistle Stop, designed by Scott Caputo and published by Bézier Games. Stick around.
You're listening to the Beans and Dice podcast, a podcast about how we game.
It's 1869 and the Transcontinental Railroad has been completed, but we're not done yet. In Whistle Stop, you take control of pioneer railroads that move goods and build routes from the East Coast to the West Coast, gaining fame points which will dictate the victory. Setup begins by placing the board in the center of the table. On the left side, you'll find the turn track. Place a number of whistles on the turn track on the whistle spot equal to the number of players. Look for the number of players on the track, and that'll indicate where to begin placing your coal tokens. Then you'll place 2 coal tokens per player on each space of the coal track. Then you take the gold tokens, flip them face down so their values are hidden, and place them in a pile on the side of the board along with your coal and your whistle tokens. Create a stack of each railroad share type on the side of the board. Stack each type in numerical order with the number 1 on the top. Shuffle the upgrade cards and take 2 more than there are players and place them on the side of the board. In this game, we have 2 players, so we'll need 4. Shuffle the 10 end tiles, the tiles with the dark green backs, and place 8 of them face up on the leftmost column on the game board, and then put the other tiles back in the box. Separate out the 18 special tiles. Choose 1 coal yard, 1 trading post, 2 random town tiles, 1 random special tile, not a coal yard or a trading post or a town, and 3 random ordinary tiles. Randomly place these 8 tiles face up onto the board in the 4th column from the right. Randomly choose 9 ordinary train route tiles. Place them randomly face up in the rightmost column and in the topmost and bottommost positions of the 2nd column. Tiles cannot be placed in an orientation that results in the only continuing route to go backwards. Shuffle the remaining ordinary and special tiles into one pile. Place the stack near the board and flip the first 3 tiles. Each player takes a whistle token and 3 tiles from the stack. If one of those tiles does not have a stop on them, you would discard a tile until you have a tile with a stop. Choose a player color and take a number of trains in your chosen color, 5 trains in the 2-player game. In addition, place your circular score marker on the 0 on the score track at the edge of the game board. Randomly choose a start player and take a number of coal tokens according to the player order. Both the starting player and the second player receive 2 coal tokens. Starting with the player to the right of the start player and continuing clockwise, take turns one at a time to place your trains on one of the 16 East Coast stops until all trains have been placed. An East Coast stop can contain at most 1 train. Whistle Stop is played in rounds marked by the turn track. It starts when the first player distributes the coal tokens from the turn marker. At the beginning of each of his turns, the start player distributes all of the tokens on the next space on the turn track evenly among all the players, including himself. So for a 2-player game, it's 2 coal per player. On your turn, you can spend up to 4 tokens, either coal or whistles, to move your trains on the board, or you can spend resources to gain upgrades. You may do any of these, all of them, or none of them in any order you choose. As you spend resources, place them on your player board in the 4 numbered spots in order to keep track of your spent tokens. Then, at the end of the turn, return the spent tokens to the supply. For the first round, the start player takes the tokens off the coal space next to the number of players that you have. But first, let's talk about moving a train using a coal token. You can spend a coal token to move one of your trains along the track, westerly, that's to the left, to a new column, or up or down within the same column. You end the movement at the next stop along the track. A stop is indicated by a small circle or one of these special tiles. A train must follow the railway on the tiles. A train may not move to a resource spot or an East Coast spot if a train is already located there. Your train may pass through but not end its movement on resource spots or East Coast spots occupied by another train. Place a train that has reached an end tile immediately on a resource track. Move a train using a whistle token. So you can spend a whistle token to move one of your trains 1 or 2 stops in any direction. This includes ending up on a tile to the right of where you started. You don't collect any resources or tokens for skip stops. You may pass stops that are occupied by other players. If you use a whistle token to skip over an end tile, skip all the effects of that end tile as well. Place a train that has reached an end tile on a resource track. If you use a whistle token to skip an end tile, you skip all the effects of the end tile. Place that train that has reached the end tile on a resource track immediately. It may not move out of the end tile. If your movement sends your train on a track that leads to an empty space, you'll play a train tile from your hand and follow that track movement. If that tile does not have a stop, you will place a second tile until you do have a stop. When your train lands on a resource tile, it's a circle with a cube on it, you're going to gain 1 resource of that color. Resources gained by any of your trains are available to all of your trains for delivery or trading purposes. Resources are classified as rare or common. Brown is lumber, white is cotton, gray is gravel. Blue is steel, red is cattle, and green is whiskey. You may hold a maximum of 10 resources. If you have 10 resources, you must discard 1 to collect a new one. When your train lands on a trading post spot, you may make up to 2 trades. You can trade any 1 common resource for any other common resource, or a whistle token, or 2 coal tokens. The other option is any rare resource for any other rare resource, or 2 common resources. When your train lands on a coal yard, you gain 2 coal. When your train lands on a general store stop, you gain 1 resource of your choice. When your train lands on a town stop, spend the resources shown on the tile to gain the fame points and the top card of the railroad share that it's named for. If you do not spend the resources when you stop there, you lose points equal to the indicated amount. You can visit the same town space multiple times with either the same train or some of your other trains, but you will have to pay the cost and or any penalties each time your train stops there. You can take shares from the same stock you already have, and if the stockpile is depleted for those shares of that location, you can still stop there, but you still must pay the penalty and or pay the amount to gain the fame. You just don't get the share. When your train lands on an end stop, you spend the resources shown on the tile to gain the bonus fame points. If you cannot spend those resources, you lose points as indicated on the tile. Then immediately move the train off the end stop and onto a resource spot, gaining the listed resources and or tokens on those resource spots. For any question marks listed, you can take any resource or token of your choice. When your train stops on a gold mine, you gain a gold token. Each gold token is worth either 3, 4, or 5 victory points. You take the token, you look at it, put it face down in front of you, sharing that information with no one. When your train stops on a stock market space, you'll gain victory points equal to the number of shares that you have, and then you must remove one of those shares from the game. When your train stops at the whistle factory, you gain 1 whistle token. At the end of your turn, draw back up to 3 tiles in your hand. You can take from either the face up tiles next to the draw stack or face down from the draw stack itself. After you have collected your 3 tiles in your hand, you then make sure that there are 3 face up tiles next to the tile stack. Once you've completed refilling your hand, play continues to the player on your left. Once it gets back to the start player, go back to the track and distribute the next pile of coal available on the track to each player evenly, including the starting player. You may purchase up to 2 upgrade cards at a time during your turn. To purchase an upgrade from the supply, pay the resource cost on the upgrade card and place it in front of you. To purchase an upgrade that another player has, you would pay the resources shown on that upgrade and 1 rare resource good to that player of your choice. You choose what resource to take their upgrade and place it in front of you. You can purchase up to 2 upgrades per turn. The game ends at the end of the last round, or at the end of the round during which one player gets their last train off the board. Scoring at the end of the game is going to start with scoring each type of stock. The player that has the most shares of one type of stock is going to get 15 fame points. In the event of a tie among the tying players, the player who has the lowest number on that stock, 1 being lower than 2, is going to be the majority stockholder getting those victory points. Then you score the points on any of your upgrades. So upgrades have points. Score the fame points for each gold token you have based on their value. Score 3 fame points for each unused rare resource you have. Score 1 fame point. Score 1 fame point for each 2 tokens that you have. And finally, lose 10 points for each special tile that you still have in your hand. The player with the highest score wins, and in case of a tie, the player who has the most shares wins the game. And that's how you play Whistle Stop by Bézier Games.
Thanks for watching the Beans and Dice podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe.